Yeah, you're a bit cranky, aren't you? Because we're sick. No, don't clap for being sick.
We've been sick in this house. I still sound a bit crusty. Toby was pretty sick for a week, and then I was pretty sick for a week, and then Ben's pretty sick for a week right now. If you'd been at my house, you would have seen some very questionable fever-related fashions. You know, when you have a fever and you rug up and you put on all these layers, and then your Panadol kicks in, and then you strip them all off again, and you're left with very strange decisions. But I'm back. I want to go through what the angel actually says about baby John, and I'm going to do it a little bit like a Q&A with my current self and my future self. And maybe instead of calling it a question and answer, I should call it a question and rambling, because I don't want to presume that I am going to find the answers, but hopefully just some insights to clarify them a bit. So the angel starts by saying, "Don't be afraid, Zechariah. God has heard your prayer. Your wife Elizabeth will give you a son, and you're to name him John. You'll have great joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the eyes of the Lord. He must never touch wine or other alcoholic drinks." Question mark about that. Is the Bible saying that alcohol is bad? And I guess even if we don't jump to that conclusion, why is it that John specifically is not supposed to have any alcohol? That seems randomly specific. Hello, it's Future Hannah, coming at you from May 12. So a long time ago in the Jewish scriptures, there is a section about ritual laws for the Nazarites. And a Nazarite is someone who is taking a vow to kind of set themselves apart to God for some special purpose. There were kind of 3 stipulations involved in that. And in case you're interested, this is in Numbers 6. The language that's used in these laws around people doing this is that they're being set apart and holy. So it says things like, if any of the people, either men or women, take the special vow of a Nazarite, setting themselves apart to the Lord in a special way, they must give up wine and other alcoholic drinks. They must never cut their hair throughout the time of their vow, for they're holy and set apart to the Lord. And they must not go near a dead body during the entire period of their vow to the Lord. And so my understanding is that when the angel says that John is going to not touch wine or other alcoholic drink, it's kind of a shorthand to this, saying that he's going to be set apart for God for a special purpose. I'll be back. If it's going to work out between us, you're going to see my dressing gown sometime, so you might as well get used to it. When it comes to the whole question of, so is the Bible saying that alcohol's bad? I would like you to cast your mind back to 2 episodes ago, because what you're expecting that the Bible is going to impact how you read that. If you're expecting a list of do's and don'ts, you might go, okay, so the really holy people, they don't have alcohol. Or you can actually really infer from the angel saying this about John and from that passage in Numbers is that not having alcohol is part of the Nazarite vow. Why that's part of the Nazarite vow though, I don't know. In the passage in the book of Numbers, it talks about them being able to recommence. I'll plug in my baby monitor. In the book of Numbers, it talks about them being able to recommence drinking alcohol after the time of their vow. And in the book of Luke, when it's talking about how John's not going to have any alcohol, there's no assumption that that's meant to apply to everyone. It's just that it's part of the Nazarite vow. There are other parts of the Bible that talk about, that warn against the dangers of drunkenness, but then there's other parts of the Bible that talk about the joys of a good glass of wine, and so, there's a mix. Thank you, Future Hannah, that makes a lot more sense to me now, I hope. The next thing is, he'll be filled with the Holy Spirit even before his birth, and I want to know, what does it mean to be filled with the Holy Spirit? And what does it mean, or what's the significance of it being even before his birth?
I have my assistant Tobias, the nearly 1-year-old, with me here today. I cannot believe how big you are. You're so grown up. By necessity, I'm going to be leaving a lot more room for mystery in my rambling response to this question, because there are a lot of views about this. Who or what is the Holy Spirit is something that Christians have argued about forever. And what exactly it means to be filled with the Spirit is another question that Christians have argued about forever. And it would really be the ultimate hubris for me to try and solve that in like 4 minutes for you. But I guess what I want to try and do is think about when the angel said this to Zechariah, what did Zechariah think that it meant? Like, what would he already know about this, rather than reading back into it what Christians have thought since? What does that mean? First thing I notice as I look back through the Hebrew Bible is that the language of the Holy Spirit and the language of the Spirit of God are kind of like interchangeable. I was looking through all these different passages that talk about the Spirit of God. And the first mention is at the start of the world, where it's all described as formless and empty, but that the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And it kind of seems to mean like God's personal presence. And then there's some instances through the Bible after that where it talks about people being filled with the Holy Spirit, and it kind of like equipping them to do certain tasks and different things. And yes, I know that block number 3 is missing. It's under the cot. You found my tower. Like, I think the first example of someone being filled with this Holy Spirit, it equips him to be able to interpret dreams, and it gets him out of a sticky situation. But the next person described as being filled with the Holy Spirit is given the ability to be like an epic craftsman. And I'll read it to you because it's like it's not what I expect when I think of being filled with the Holy Spirit and what that might mean. It's in Exodus 35, if that interests you. Moses told the people of Israel, "The Lord has specifically chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, grandson of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. The Lord has filled Bezalel with the Spirit of God, giving him great wisdom, ability, and expertise in all kinds of crafts." And that was for the specific purpose of building the tabernacle, which was, for the sake of brevity, a religious structure. So in that example, it's kind of like God's given them these like special skills to enable them to do a particular task. Even though what I tend to associate someone being filled with the Spirit, I tend to associate that with being sort of a statement about their character and God sort of equipping their character. So the example I'm thinking of is in a prophecy that's made about Jesus in Isaiah chapter 11. "And the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord." So in that type of example, being filled with the Holy Spirit, or in this case, the Spirit of the Lord resting on him, which is an interesting, like, different way of saying that, I think. Kind of seems to be about his character. And then another one is in the book of Joel, where God is saying that a time is going to come. Wow. The message that God gives is, "Then, after doing all these things, I will pour out my Spirit upon all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions. In those days I'll pour out my Spirit even on servants, men and women alike, and I'll cause wonders in the heavens and on the earth." So that kind of idea makes people think, okay, so being filled with the Holy Spirit, it's kind of like going to be these hectic kind of supernatural looking signs. Like people are going to have dreams and speak prophecies, and like crazy stuff's going to happen. And all of that language is in the Bible describing the work of the Holy Spirit. And that's a very limited survey. But then I came across the video on the Holy Spirit by the Bible Project.
The Bible this happens to is Joseph.
God's Spirit enables him to understand and interpret dreams.
And then it happens to this guy named Bezalel, and he's an artist.
God's Spirit empowers
I think that they explain that really well in that video. Plus, it's beautifully animated. So you can watch beautiful pictures while you learned about this instead of watching me build a tower. I gotta see what Toby's doing. Will you show the good people you're rolling? Maybe the other way? No? But either way, I guess no matter what it specifically means, the point of the angel saying that to Zechariah is that we are supposed to wait and see what that looks like for John. It kind of builds on what we talked about in the last question about being set apart for a holy purpose. Is like whatever it looks like exactly that God's Spirit is going to fill John, what it at least means is that he's being equipped for some specific task. And I think we're supposed to go, I wonder what it is. You right there, Toby? Where are you going? I'll come in.
Hey, it is now April 23rd, and we're sick again. This time it's the spicy. This time we got COVID. Ben is pretty wretched at the moment. He's had fevers and is feeling terrible. Toby had a pretty rough first 24 hours with COVID. He had really bad fevers and he had some trouble breathing that we were concerned about, and so I took him to ED and we spent one night in hospital. I'm alright, I just have a cold. I feel a lot less sick than I did when I was sick at the start of the video with something else.
Just a little update that I am not feeling very good anymore.
Unsurprisingly, I'm probably not going to finish all the questions about baby John in this video, and so I thought I would do a little intermission to talk to you about, I guess, what's going on in life personally and how I'm feeling about stuff at the moment, because it's 1 week until Toby's birthday, which is nuts. It goes so fast. I know every parent says, oh, they grow up so fast, but guys, they grow up really, really fast. So when Toby was in hospital, I was surprised at how quickly I just slotted back into like living in the hospital, which is something that I haven't done in 9 months. But I was like right back into my little hospital juice and my little prepackaged Weet-Bix and, you know, oh, there's with the PowerPoint and like, I don't know, I was surprised at how quickly I just adapted to being back in that environment. And it reminded me that, I don't know, I spent a long time living in hospitals halfway through last year. And there was kind of a moment of big emotion for me because like Toby's life was never in danger through the course of this admission, but there were some points when I guess my body took me back to the feelings of this time last year, like specifically when they plugged in the monitor and it started making the beeping that I'd like heard constantly for 2 months. I just had this like feeling of, I don't know, just sadness, just a heaviness kind of wash over me in that moment. And it's weird, like, obviously, if Toby's having trouble breathing and has a massive fever, like, I need to take him to ED, but it was strange to confront that, like, I know what a dying baby looks like, and so I'm actually sort of more hesitant too, because I know what being in ICU looks like for a baby, and so it feels like, oh, well, things aren't that bad, so he doesn't need help. It was an interesting thing to learn about myself. And it was just, yeah, I don't know. I spent a lot of time trying to rock Toby to sleep in the ED. Just feeling awe, I guess, how different it was to be in hospital with a like otherwise healthy 1-year-old. But also just sadness. I think one of the hard things that I still carry is that I never really got to hold Zach properly. And even if he, like, I held him on the day that he passed away, but I didn't get to, I mean, just because of his size. just over 600 grams, and so little that I didn't get to hold him like you hold a baby. Like, I couldn't put him up like that, and I couldn't put, like, I had him in the crook of my arm, but he was so little that I didn't really get to hold him properly. I know Ben's the same, but often holding Toby while we put him to sleep, like once he's sleeping, it's sometimes just a moment for reflection, thinking of Zach. I didn't really expect to cry filming today. Must be the COVID. But I wanted to talk a bit about Mother's Day too, because something I've been thinking about the last couple of years is that, like, we often wish people like Happy Mother's Day or Happy Birthday or Happy Merry Christmas, and that's lovely, but there can be this pressure sometimes for it to be a happy day, and people want to know what you did. And I felt a little bit of that around Mother's Day, but I got a lot of really thoughtful messages on Mother's Day. For some reason, I think because I'm like in the lead up to the birthdays and to Zach's anniversary, I just hadn't even considered Mother's Day as a potential like emotional day. But on Mother's Day, Ben was working, which was a shame, but Toby and I went to church, and then we went and visited Zach's grave after. What my prayer was and my thought was, I guess, on that day was, I'm just really grateful and I feel really honoured to be the mum of Toby and Zach. And even though obviously I wish Zach was here, I also, I don't know, I'm also kind of like proud of my story. And I was saying to God, like, thank you for making me a mum to these boys, even though it went like this. And that's genuinely how I feel. But when I step outside myself, I can see how that's kind of remarkable. And I'm just really grateful that, I don't know, I believe that God has brought me to a place where I can be genuinely grateful for the experience, even though it's never the way that I would have chosen for it to be. Anyway, that's enough of my snotty voice. More questions about Baby John next time, and no doubt I will also be sharing some reflections on whatever it is that I end up feeling about Zach and Toby's first birthday. I can't believe it's been a year, but at the same time, so much has happened. It feels so long ago. I'm going to be talking about the spirit and power of Elijah, what that means for Baby John. And I've been reading about Elijah, and that stuff's nuts, man. So I'm excited to try and wade through that together. Thank you for listening to my ramblings and reflections.